YouTube live video stream. So it's still preparing.
Who's watching? Who will watch this?
Well, the state statute requires that we make the stream available publicly.
Because there's more than 3 of us together.
All right.
Yep. Hi, Amy. And we're
Hello.
live.
Hi, everybody.
There's Amy.
Sorry I'm a little late.
Hey, Steve.
I wish I could stay.
Hey, see ya.
Okay.
Amy, I've been in so many meetings with Mark this week. It's fun to see a different view of your house.
It's the other Mistechko.
I hope we get some Molly bombs in this one too.
Oh. Well, it's very possible.
I don't think I've seen Kayla yet at all, so I hope she's still doing well.
They're both doing well. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we'll start the meeting then. So just to start with everything, this is a call to order. And first we're going to start with approving last meeting's agenda. So do I hear any motion for that? Motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
Yeah,
Second.
I second that.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Hi.
Anyone against? Okay, great. So that passes. And then, oh, sorry, that was the agenda. Now we're going to do the minutes. So do I hear a motion to approve last meeting's, or the, I don't know, I guess I just did the minutes. So now the agenda.
I would approve them if I knew I was there. I'm not sure where I am or if I made it to the last meeting. I think I did.
Last meeting, I can check here if you were there. You were indeed there, yeah.
Yeah, it was February 28th, I believe, right?
Okay,
Yes,
all right. I move we approve the minutes.
the minutes. Sorry, a little disorganized. And do I hear a second for that?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Hi.
I'm sorry, Cheryl, were you the one who seconded?
Second, yeah.
Okay.
And anyone against? Great, so that passes. And then we're just going to continue. So as of now, I don't think either the OPD or MEPD representatives are here. Is that correct?
Laura will not be attending today.
Okay. So we're just going to continue into new business. So everything connected to the pandemic. And I think I just wanted to hear 2 things from everyone, kind of a bit about the structure of SCRC moving forward, like if you'd like to still continue with the ongoing local issues, or if you'd like to switch more to concerns relating to COVID-19 and its effects on our community. And then I'd like to hear just like some updates from different parts of everyone, what's going on, you know? So a bit about the structure of SCRC. So you all know a bit about like the goals that we've had for the past 2 semesters and just some of the things that we've been tackling. I'd like to hear just if you'd like to really, like we can mix that in a little bit, just like what degree and what balance you'd like to have between the 2, if that makes sense.
So Claire, you're probably going to want to call on people in this environment. So I would just start with the top of your screen and go around.
Okay. Starting then, Cheryl, do you have any input on that?
I haven't thought about it too much, but I like the structure as it is now. I wish more people would bring issues and concerns to us. It doesn't seem like, I think this is my 2nd year now, or maybe the end of my 1st, but it doesn't seem like we've had much brought forward, yet we know there's stuff swirling out there in the world. So I wish we could solicit maybe more input from the community.
Okay. Okay. Joy, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I would agree with Cheryl's sentiment. I think we're doing good work right now. It certainly would be great to have some more things to work on, and maybe that is in this new sort of COVID-19 space, a place for us to sort of figure out where some overlap between our concerns and our resources could be. But yeah, I mean, I think we're doing some good stuff so far.
Okay, great. Jonathan, how do you feel about it all?
So I haven't really had a whole lot of issues outside of like business organizations that have been brought to me. A lot of the issues that students are facing. So I don't know about actual Oxford residents because the students are all abroad, but or I'm sorry, like their own local locations. But my biggest thing has been with other organizations, just trying to come up with a list of things people can do now because they have a lot more free time and people are kind of getting stir crazy being home so much that in my other business organizations, we've started compiling a list of like certifications people can get, activities they can do in their house, things like that. So really no issues that have been brought to me, but just kind of proactively trying to keep people occupied.
How would you, any kind of way you'd like to format that going forward?
So I know the Business Student Advisory Council has been sending out, we just compiled our first newsletter that we're going to start sending out just so people have it in a written format. It's pretty easy to find out what we're kind of suggesting they do. So if you guys would like, I can always put that to you guys so you could take a look at it.
So maybe like sending out a newsletter on behalf of SCRC and kind of like what we're doing and our recommendations.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, great. And continuing on, Amy, would you like to provide any input?
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to add besides I think having a discussion about I would love to hear the student perspective on how you guys are doing right now and what maybe you need from us or things like that. But then maybe some planning going forward, thinking about the coming year might be valuable as well.
Great. Okay, sounds good. Then Megan Schlatter, would you like to provide anything?
Let me unmute myself. There we go. Yeah, I feel kind of similar to what everyone else has been saying. I've been doing a little bit more to try to get a feel from graduate students about how they're doing and anything they need from us or from the community. Haven't really heard back. The graduate students, at least that I know, are just really focused on getting their classes online if they're teaching. And just kind of trying to keep on with their research given kind of some of the new limitations.
Yeah, would you say the majority of grad students have left campus or stayed nearby? Like, what do you think is like the general consensus of that?
I'd say in the English department, I'd say about like 60 to 75% of the graduate students are kind of back home or have gone to another city to be closer to loved ones or family members. So maybe like a quarter or a little bit more still staying in Oxford, but socially isolating.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good to know. Then how about we continue over to Glenn?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. The first is, are the students aware that there's going to be a lot of individuals calling all of you next week just to check in? This is on the Miami side, just to check in to see how you're doing.
I think people are aware. I know that quite a few people got calls from Dr. Crawford last week, including myself, and it was very nice and reassuring. And I think it's like something that people are kind of aware of that they're being checked in on. I know that a lot of people still have a lot of concerns obviously being brought up, and so not all of those have been addressed, which is making them a little anxious. But I think they know that the administration's on their side, and they're all kind of expecting to hear information from different mediums.
Okay. Well, the one thing that I was mostly concerned with is I know on the city side of it, we have tried to communicate as best we could about various social services and applications that you can submit for various supports while you're here in Oxford. So a lot of it was focused towards, let's say, service industry people or individuals that may have lost their jobs during that particular time. And I don't know if that general public information filtered to the students because the student public disconnect that we sometimes have. And that was my focus, is to try to make sure that the communications that we are sending out to the Oxford community definitely make it back to the students.
Okay. Are there any specific resources that you really want to push?
Definitely the Family Resource Center, um, and then like TOPS and things like that, because I know that there are students that are here. I don't know why they're still here, but if they are still here because they have nowhere else to go and they're kind of locked into their living arrangement, uh, I just want to make sure that they know that there are services here that can help them out. And if they did have a job here, that they can apply for things like unemployment. And Samuel Adams has a $1,000 grant proposal that's going on right now, other things like that.
Okay, that's great to know. How about we continue? Is that all you have to mention?
Yep.
Or?
Yep.
Great. Steve, would you like to mention anything?
Sure. Something that I'm seeing on Facebook is the concern about students still having lots of outdoor parties and not really practicing social distancing. So that makes me wonder, I mean, if there's any estimate of the number of students who have remained in off-campus housing. I know I see a number of foreign students who are around, and I'm still concerned that a lot of the Asian students get confronted about the misnaming of the virus, and that just bugs me.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to be more welcoming. I'm also concerned about students who left Oxford assuming that they were going to be coming back before the end of the school year, and how is a move out going to be allowed, and what's going to happen if there are rental properties where their leases are ending and they have lots of belongings there but won't be able to come back or aren't intending to come back. I think we've got an interesting problem on our hands there about having rental places ready for the next time, which then blends into all of what kind of resources have been working or have been found not to work in helping folks do negotiations with their landlords. And takes it back to what Glenn is saying about people, if there are those that are in financial difficulties or have and are here and have food difficulties or anything else like that, that we do get to link them with whatever resources are here, like TOPS and Family Resources. Oxford Seniors is still operating, but probably not offering services that would really hit much of the student population.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are some really important concerns, and I'm glad you brought those up. I can address a few of them. So, concerning about the outdoor parties and all of that, we don't have any real numbers of how many students decided to stay in Oxford versus those that went home. But most of the on-campus students have gone home. That's a guarantee. There's like a few in 2 halls. That students could stay, they could submit an appeal and on campus, and administration has done a great job of trying to separate those students into certain parts of certain dorms to really practice like a social distancing model. Now the students that live off campus, I think it's really mostly seniors, so in my grade, that have decided to stay, wanting to kind of just like live out the rest of their college experience. And so I have seen like on social media, certain coming out still in Oxford, but as of now, I'm only aware of, I don't know of any students that are like meeting up with different people around campus. It's really just like that they've stayed and they've quarantined with their household. So say they live in a house of like 6 people, it's just them, and they're just like outdoor, like having a nice little bonfire, roasting some marshmallows. So that's definitely a concern that people are meeting up. As of now, I don't have any like evidence that people are mixing within the groups. I think people are just trying to keep their hopes up and just continue to have like a good experience with their housemates. But should we see any like larger gatherings of people That's definitely something that should be addressed. Then into international students, definitely welcome. That's definitely a concern as well, especially with certain mentions from our federal government. I don't know, just definitely a concern that I don't know, just people aren't feeling welcome, especially with people expressing certain sentiments. I know that ASG has sent out like a statement about that, and that we really are advocating for people to continue to just like make sure everyone feels welcome and safe in their environment, especially since a lot of international students didn't have the option of returning back to their home country. So making sure that, especially with all the fears going around during the pandemic, that that they feel safe. If you have any specific ideas of how we could further address that, I'm totally welcome to hearing that. A little bit just to transition into the move out problem. That's something that I definitely understand. I think that forcing families from across the country to travel here to move out their kids in mid-May is definitely a big concern and could like pose a lot of health risks, especially if this is still going on at the rate it is. So I know that on behalf of ASG, we're reaching out to all the landlords to let them know about this concern, and we haven't heard back yet, but hopefully they'll just like start thinking about it. And I know it's in their policy to enforce that people will move out in mid-May, but hopefully they'll be a little more lenient with that, considering things going on. And so yeah, I don't have like a full solution to that yet, but that's definitely something that we're working on. And yeah, and then the resources you mentioned, I'd love to include in the newsletter idea that Jonathan brought up. So I think that could be a good thing to do. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Am I next?
Sure, yeah, true, yeah.
I don't know. A couple things. I'm worried about the move in, move out, especially with ShareFest. What do we do about that? And it seems to me that the need is still there, but that's something that the SCRC should know about so they could tell other people, and it'll definitely be done differently. I think it's really interesting for us as community people to get to know the students, and this is just one place where we'll have a chance to talk about a common experience. But a lot of people in the town don't know any students, but we sort of live right in the middle of them and get to know them. And I think that's really valuable from a town's perspective, that we get to know the neighbors in the house next door. I'm also pretty curious about what's happening in our commercial section, and maybe the CIC covered it yesterday, I don't know, but like, how are the stores doing? Are they doing all right? Is the takeout program going all right? But that's just a concern. I'm curious about how our community will survive this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the long-term economic effects of this is definitely concerning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know either. Is there any chance I could direct some of those questions to Andrew, especially also like I don't really know any updates about the ShareFest, so if you could touch on that.
Yeah, ShareFest. Sam Perry, my boss, is on the ShareFest committee, or the ShareFest board rather, and they are still working out those details right now. The hard part is not knowing when students will be back, and if the agencies that typically collect the items will be able to receive them as normal. There are just so many things up in the air right now. So I don't really have much more than that at the moment, but when I do have more information, I'll share it with the SCRC.
And I think, yes, sharing it with us so we can share it with the townspeople who ask us what's going on, what's happening. So
I'm being asked every day.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
What's happening? You just
I wish that I knew. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do you know anything about the economic structure going forward? Like, I don't, if the town's doing anything to help out, or just any concerns that have been brought up in terms of like the economic side of
I
Oxford?
can probably help answer that if you want, Andrew.
Yep, go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, so yesterday we had a CIC, I guess you call it an emergency meeting regarding the economic health of the local businesses. And what we had resolved to do in that session was send a recommendation to council that's going to meet this coming Tuesday to institute a fund where the city will buy gift cards from the businesses. So the businesses can apply to have the city buy gift cards from them. And then at a later date, the city would sell those gift cards off to recoup the cost. And along with that, there would be an additional uh, use of the revolving loan fund for payroll protection services, along with some SBA services that we can get from the county. But those two initiatives were voted on, and they were approved, and we'll see those on the council agenda on Tuesday. So there'll be the gift card thing, as well as the use of the revolving loan fund for payroll protection on the businesses.
Okay, great. Prue, any further questions you'd like to ask?
I just think the information that's shared at the SCRC is really good, and it puts us in the know, but we should then, if we ever pass our neighbors or our friends within 6 feet, and can ask them, how are things going? They can let us know. So this is a good place to share that information, because you can't do it on the street.
Agreed. Yeah.
Well, and the Oxford Observer did publish today and suggested that it's going to continue to do so, but
that's really good.
Getting information to them so that they can send it out more, but I still don't know how broad their readership may be.
How do the students who are here, the few of them are here, how do they get to know what's going on?
I mean, we get a lot of newsletters from the administration from Miami. And I mean, on social media, a lot of things are shared around. I know that HG has a few platforms that they continuously update, especially this one resource that we have is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with like how Instagram works, but there's a story feature, which is just like live updates that people can post, and people can type in any questions or concerns they have. And our communication side of ASG is quick to respond and either posting resources or updating with information, or just addressing everything that comes up. And that's one platform that we run. And then people just like posting updates all the time. So I'd say students, for the most part, have a good understanding of what's going on.
Good.
I worry about that as being the method, though. This is Steve again, because if we're relying on a game of telephone for people to pass on information that might have more, that may be more official, and be misinterpreted, is it possible the university would work with the city, or is that happening in some way that we're not aware of yet, so that some of the city's messages can be shared by the university to students who are still around, rather than it be from student to student, or less? I just worry about an informal communication method, and I agree. And which also brings up the issue about census and how, what a harm this is going to do to the city over a 10-year period to not have a strong count of student residents during the census counting.
Yes. Wow.
You know, yes, as of now, there is no formal way that students are getting direct updates from the city. So would you feel comfortable if we added a lot of those updates into the newsletter that we're gonna create?
Well, I think that newsletter is one good thing, but I don't understand who we would need to talk to at the university in their communications area to get them to agree to, as the university being a major part of this community, reaching out or including some of that data. I would hope that Jessica Green and Doug Elliott are working with whomever there and are suggesting something like that, and that they will get some kind of positive reaction. Is that possible, Glenn or Cheryl or Scott? Who would we even go to?
So I was just taking some notes, Steve. So I think it's very possible, and I think it's happening. But I will follow up with Ted Pickerel this weekend on our end, because I know that Ted and Jessica have been having conversations prior to the last 7 days. So I don't know in the last 7 days, but I think it's those messages could be shipped out. So the messages that Claire was talking about are also then distributed. I know that Mark Pontius distributes them to a parents' Facebook group. I know that Jen O'Brien. So I know there's different groups that I will see the same message sometimes 5 different places. So that is something that could easily be forwarded to Jessica. And I want to say a couple weeks ago, I want to say that Jessica gets all the messages from Mark Pontius, but I will double check on. Do you know, Claire? I think that Jessica might get.
I think so as well. I don't think that Mark has a direct contact to the students. I think that doesn't he mostly relay things to the parents?
Yeah, and it's the last 3 weeks, whatever group that is on the university side, the message has been the same. It's been if a message comes from the provost, those other places just ship that same exact message out. If it comes from Dr. Crawford, they ship that same exact message out. So it's how do we get that out? So I will double check.
Okay, but just to reiterate where I'm coming from, it's messages from the city to be going out to Miami students, where Miami needs to be accepting the message from the city to share with the Miami public, as opposed to simply Miami deciding what's important.
Okay. Do you? So I see messages from Jessica. Is that because I'm on this committee, or is that because I'm part of? So I see so I'm on some sort of list that I get weekly, or I've gotten 4 or 5 messages from Jessica about the city updates. Is that because of this committee?
That's a new newsletter that she started. Glenn, can you describe that better?
That's the city newsletter. And regarding the, I guess you would say, 2-way communication question that Steve has proposed, Jessica and Ted have been in contact, and they remain in contact for a while. Jessica sends out that weekly city update, that weekly newsletter, and she will compile information that comes from Miami into that letter. However, it's filtered, like they say, here's what we want, and here's what we could want to send to the public. I don't know who the vehicle would be to say, how when Scott was saying, if a message comes from the president or the provost, it goes out to the Miami community. I don't know. I think it would be Ted would be the contact to say if messages from the president or the provost go out, can or should they go out to the Oxford community? If so, all of those would go to Jessica and then be sent via the city newsletter.
And I'll reach out, because the other thing, Glenn, is it might be Carol Johnson. So I'll check with Ted and Carol Johnson. So I know from the call center a couple of weeks that they were in contact with Jessica, but I'll follow up and make sure.
I appreciate that, because I know that's sticky right now.
Yeah,
so.
I'll do that. And then I guess while I'm talking, Claire, I'll go. I mean, I think back to the original question, I think I agree with Cheryl and Joy that I like the direction we were going previous to the to COVID-19, but to follow up with kind of where Glenn and Steve went, I think this committee needs to be nimble enough that we're able to address what it's going to look like this summer or the fall, because I think right now, I think it's going to change so much in the next 2 to 6 weeks that we don't know what the impact is going to be, especially on the businesses, landlords, and what the Oxford community look like. So I think that this is the vehicle, this committee, that we could have some of those conversations. And I don't know if that's some informal meetings during the summer, because part of me says it's going to be middle of, I have no idea, but it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks before I think we have an understanding of what the impact is going to be. And then I guess my question is going to be, how do we mobilize Oxford and the students, Oxford and the university, or the three of them, when we come back, to help get Oxford back to the way it was a month ago? Because we're talking about an extended summer for the Oxford community, and as a 10-year resident, that's going to look different. So I mean, I like the idea of the direction we were going. I think that it was a game changer a month ago, 3 weeks ago. So that's my 2 cents, and I'll get back on mute.
No, I think that's a great direction to go into, like still addressing some of the old concerns, but really focusing on the long-term issues that this is going to bring about and how to get back to the place that our community was a month ago. Yeah, I like that a lot. And also just being like a contact point again, what Prue mentioned of bringing all our updates and concerns to this group and being able to relay those to the rest of the community. How about Megan? Would you like to mention anything?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking along the same lines as what everybody's already said, but one specific concern that has come up a lot is just with the uncertainty of like how this is going to play out, especially when the Cincinnati Enquirer published, I don't know if you guys saw like the one article that had the headline saying we don't really know what the fall is going to look like. Just like anecdotally, I had two people that I was supposed to be living in a house with this upcoming fall semester kind of like emailing about like, can I get out of my lease? And there's kind of a lot of a little bit of panic and uncertainty surrounding that. So I think that just managing, I know you've already talked about like the move out situation, but even just like what housing for off campus is going to look like long term, like you guys said. So
yeah, there's a big concern, especially a lot of rental companies have reached out expressing their concern about, I mean, the spring semester is really when a lot of students sign for their off-campus properties for the following 2 years, really, I'm sure you all know. So they're definitely taking a hit, and I'm sure that a lot of students are also worried about, if they haven't signed yet, like how to find housing, how to sign properly, how to do everything remotely. And then, yeah, I know that we don't know how long this is gonna last, so there's a chance that it will still impact everyone come the fall semester. So yeah, that's a great concern we should address. Yeah. Any chance, Scott, do you know any more about looking forward to the fall semester? Like if administration is preparing to hold everything remotely still, or like how is that looking?
Well, I know that we're making plans to have orientation be online, to be remote. So I guess I don't know anymore, and I think it's a matter of, I mean, the plan right now, the hope is to start in the fall as normal. I just don't know. I don't know. When I watch the news, what's going on in New York and Chicago and places like that, it makes me wonder what it's going to look like 2 or 3 months from now. So I think that, I know we pushed accepted or when students will accept. So I think that we'll have some targets, whether that's going to be mid-May, July, or if it's going to be until move-in in August, that we have some of those answers to those questions. So I'm still optimistic, and I like to think we're going to have everybody come back. I don't know if that's realistic, or do we get a new group, or do we replace people who don't come back with new people? So we just don't know the answers to those yet. I know there's conversations going on.
I have a couple things. So as far as classes in the fall, at least from the student perspective, the university sent an email out 2 days ago that said, as of now, they fully plan on welcoming students back in the fall for face-to-face instruction. So I know things are going to change in the next few weeks. Like that could very much, they could change course on that. But as of now, that's what they plan on doing. And this is a way earlier question, but as far as the census issue with Oxford, the students received an email that if you lived on campus, you're automatically counted in Oxford by the university. Like we don't have to do anything. And then laid out instructions for if you were living off campus, what to do and how to do that.
Yeah, and I do know, so I could follow up with that. So Jonathan, that's correct about the students on campus. And I think that another message went out to students that went back home that lived off campus was the census based on the COVID-19. We want you to fill that out where you would have been living on April 1st prior to this. So that message went out there, and it's back to Prue. I hope that our students will follow it, and I think for the most part they will.
Claire, has your well, first of all, last summer we took the break off for the entire summer with the committee, but we're talking about possibly continuing. Are you available, Claire, to continue to chair, or has your replacement been elected and that we could bring that person into this group by phone soon to ease a transition?
Right. So that's definitely something we haven't made any final decisions about. So no, we have not yet elected anyone. Usually the elections for my position happen in late April. So, but it looks like we'll be pushing those back. As of now, really where ASG exec stands is that they want to, but we already have a student body president and vice president elected. So that's good to really lead us into the next year. Past that, they've designated the main people that need to be in place already to hold everything together kind of. And as of now, my position is not in that. It's really just like it's the student body president, vice president, their chief of staff, the Speaker of Senate, who's like basically the president of Senate. And then there's the Secretary of Finance, who allocates all of the funding to student organizations and to ASG. So my role isn't in that core group, which is why they're thinking of pushing back the elections for all, which basically like the fall semester. And part of that reasoning is wanting to get a real vote from Student Senate, since right now we're kind of like in limbo, not really knowing how to hold those meetings and to get a quorum, and then also trying to give everyone like an equal chance, especially people that are not in ASG might not know that it's going on, and all that. But with that comes a lot of concerns about the transition from like the people that currently hold the position to next year, and which is why I know that every secretary is kind of taking it differently, but I, for one, will be there. I'll be graduated by then, but I'm going to be still a contact point for the person who continues in my role, and I'll probably, yeah, it's going to be an interesting dynamic. But I'll probably hold this position, not formally, but I'll still be a contact point through the beginning of next semester, and I'd still be completely open to coming to these meetings if I'm allowed to. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand.
Hey,
but
Claire, can I say something real quick, Claire? So have you talked to Sarah in the last day, 2 days?
On last day. No.
Okay, so we might be trying to have your position elected by the end of this month.
Oh.
So we're looking at putting together a webinar on how to run elections remotely.
Okay.
So I literally saw an email from her 2 minutes before I clicked onto this, and I'm afraid to go back and check it because I'm afraid I'll delete this. But so there may be a replacement, although we can't replace Claire, but there may be somebody filling her shoes.
And yeah, and still with that, I'll kind of continue just as like a resource yeah, until the fall semester. And also okay, so just like another just random update is that my grades graduation has now been canceled for the May date, but there will be a ceremony in September, the weekend of September 11th, 12th, and 13th. So I will for sure be back on campus then. And yeah, so as long as the pandemic is kind of over by then and that is still happening, yeah, I'll be back and can meet with any of you. Yeah, how about we continue to Jennifer? Do you have any updates you'd like to share?
I'm not sure that I have any real updates. I made it to 2 meetings, so I'm really new. As a chamber representative, we are very concerned, of course, about businesses during this time. And as a 30-year resident of Oxford, it's breaking my heart seeing what's happening to businesses. And I know we're all trying to do what we can, for the small businesses. And I really hope that we can get everybody back on campus as soon as possible. It's really hard to see the town without all the students, it's what makes Oxford, Oxford, right? All those people. And it's hitting everybody really hard, I don't know. It's the chamber is working really hard, doing a survey, trying to find out, how it's affecting everybody and what they need, what the businesses need from the community, and how we can help. It's just different for every business, I mean, I work at the animal care clinic, and the governor has said, yes, you are a essential business. However, don't do any business. So that's challenging. So they're on a skeleton staff of the doctor, 1 nurse, and a receptionist, which means I'm out of a job temporarily. But, hopefully people will come back and we get to do business again. But that's about what's happening to most businesses in town as well. Most of them are on skeleton crews. And that's what we're hearing anyway. So unless you have a grocery store or a takeout.
Yeah. And how do you feel about moving forward the balance of really addressing like the COVID-19 issues versus like just everything we were mentioning in the past and kind of, yeah.
I mean, I think that's what's on everybody's mind right now is COVID-19. I think with the things that are happening now are going to stay. I mean, like if you're seeing like at the post office, they're putting in barriers, and I think we're going to do that at the Kroger's as well. And all the new things that are happening, I think it's going to change everything, and just the way we do everything in Oxford. So I think finding a way to incorporate those into our lives and into the students' lives and make them feel welcome still, because it's going to feel different when everybody comes back. It's, you know what I mean? So I think, I mean, it's just going to be different.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of changes in our society going forward. And
right.
Stemming from that, I actually have a question for Scott. Do you know as of now, like any projections of next year's enrollment, especially like the new students and international students? Like, do you know as of now, can you like tell if there's going to be?
No, I don't. I haven't seen any updates or any projections. I don't. I haven't seen those, and I don't know that I get them. But if I do, Claire, I will let you. I'll pass them along to you if I do hear something or get something. And it, I would say it's part of 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago was just every 24 hours, something new was happening, everything we did 24 hours before, we were telling students something different. So it's just been since spring, well, whatever, spring break a week ago, that it was trying to figure out who was going to stay, how are we going to feed the people, in that. But I'll let you know if I hear something.
Yeah.
Something as well on a personal, I mean, since the animal care clinic is where I work, with something we used to do and something we still do is a rabies titer for the students that want to take their pets back home. Those titers are being delayed because of all the blood testing we have to do and the testing that they're doing for COVID-19. So people who want to travel back home may not be able to get the testing done for their pets. We are worried about more pets being abandoned. We have worked tirelessly in the last 5 years, and we have seen a lot less abandonment. I know this is a major issue in our town, and we have worked really hard, and I think we've done a great job educating the student population on abandonment. And I think we're going to see an uptick this year because people who want to leave won't be able to take their pets because they can't get the rabies titer done in time, because you have to have it done in a certain window to get your pet with you. So we're really worried about that. So that's unfortunate. And of course, then you can't just take your pets to the shelter either, because the shelters are closed right now. Oh. So there's going to be that issue as well. So kind of be aware of that.
Yeah, just
unfortunately.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Jennifer?
Sure.
Do you know if do you just all of a sudden find an abandoned animal, or do you know, are there people we could reach out to or help? Are there, does it just happen and they're just abandoned, or do you have an idea of who should be getting that rabies?
Well, I mean, normally they come to us and say, hey, we want to go home, and we work with the process, you know. But now I think they're just going to be abandoning them like they used to, like going to Houston Woods and dumping their dogs or dumping their cats. A lot of times you find them at farms. People who have a lot of property on the edge of the property, they'll just dump their cats or dogs. So those people will come to us and say, hey, I've got another stray cat. Do you know anybody who wants a cat? And I was like, well, maybe, but you know, those people have 6 or 7 or 10, you know. So
thank you.
But the shelters, like I said, are closed right now. So we can't even say take it to a shelter if we find a cat, or the police department, you know. I mean, so this is going to be a big problem, because right before the shelters closed, I don't know if you heard, they put out a plea for people to foster. And a lot of people did come and take pets to foster during this time because they don't have the staff to take care of the pets during this time, because they're laying those people off. So it's a terrible, vicious cycle right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And how about we continue with our updates? Dan, is there anything you'd like to mention? Dan, are you there? Okay, I might just continue into my own updates then. And Dan, if you're there, you can just hop in at any time. But just, yeah, from the student perspective, there's new issues coming about every single day. And we have this one Google Doc that any senators and secretaries, if they hear any concerns, that they can just add to that doc. And it's just like a straight send to administration to hear back from. So it's a great way that we're getting like live fast updates. Yeah, we're working on the move in, move out issue. And I know a lot of concerns from my grade were about the graduation. So we're very glad that there's been like a set date now that we can kind of like wrap up our collegiate experience with. But a lot of our concerns also just rely on like the transition to online learning and the transition, just like moving back home. I know that there's a lot of concerns about like moving back into certain environments that they might not be comfortable with, or forcing the international students to adapt somewhere, like since they can't go home sometimes. I know that's a problem for myself, but yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping if there's any other concerns anyone would like to bring up, but as of now, I'm kind of hearing the consensus for moving forward to be in terms of like the balance of the COVID-19 issue with just like our ongoing community issues seems to be leaning a little more towards the COVID-19 with just like a little emphasis on certain things, especially like communication seems to be one that I've heard quite a bit from you all moving forward between like the city and school. But I think that's kind of the consensus I've heard. If anyone has anything else they'd like to add, I'm totally open. Floor is open. But yeah, okay. So I'm really glad that you all figured out how to use technology too. I think this has been a good way that we've all like shared our updates. And yeah, I'm gonna bring back a lot of these concerns to the rest of ASG. And I'm also, I know that Andrew and I both are available for any questions to be answered anytime. If you feel free to email us or and we can like direct you to the right resources. And another thing is, yeah, I'll start compiling the newsletter and see how we could send that out. Yeah, that's mostly what I've heard. And other than that, I think we're ready to wrap up the meeting. If anyone else wants to add anything before that happens.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you all for participating in this meeting today, because this is our first fully virtual public live meeting from the city of Oxford. So there was a CIC meeting yesterday as well, but this one is being broadcast live on YouTube. The city, over the last few weeks, we've made a lot of changes internally to accommodate the public during this time. Some of the changes that have come about include an online sign-up form for water and sewer service. So the process that we've had in place forever, you have to come into the municipal building to sign up. But to reduce face-to-face contact, we came up with this new website. There's also a crime reporting website as well. So if you need to file a crime report, you can start with that website, and then the report will go down to the dispatch clerks, and then they'll put you in contact with a police officer who will call you if you have an incident. You can always still call 911 for emergencies, of course, or call the non-emergency line for Oxford Police as well. So we appreciate everyone's patience as well, because some of our processes are very heavily face-to-face and paper-based, and we're converting a lot of processes over to electronic and doing a lot of training with staff too. So it's been quite the learning experience for a lot of my coworkers. So that was all I wanted to add. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great. So on that note, I will propose a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Great. Does anyone second that?
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, great. All in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All against? Great, so that passes. And thank you all for coming to the meeting. I look for the next one, and yeah, have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
It's the next.
Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right, take care, everyone. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Andrew.
Bye-bye.
When is the next one?
It is, let me find out here. We're scheduled for Friday, April 17th, so 2 weeks from today.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Prue. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See y'all.